one man who is a winner and who is absolutely.
All right, welcome to episode whatever this is of Pro Wrestling Talk. I'm your
Hey, we're gonna
host,
do our intro.
Angel Rivera, alongside Steph. And yes, we are going to do our intro. I completely forgot because we weren't on last week. So
No.
where the hell is it? Oh my god, there's so much more clips here that I don't know where it's at. I don't know where it's at. I literally don't know where it's at. I mean, it was here and then it's gone.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. I mean, nothing I can do about it, but it sucks. But yeah, we can't do our intro this week because I don't know where the hell it went. Other people use this other than me, so I'll find it next week. And how are you doing today?
I'm a little better, but unfortunately I am exhausted, so we'll see how long I can go for.
I
I'm
am
hoping
too.
for at least an hour and a half,
Yeah,
But
90 minutes is.
but see, the doctors don't. When you and I were young, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a sinus infection, I could get amoxicillin like that, and literally in 3 or 4 days I would be just fine. Now they
Yeah.
say, oh, well, we're not going to give you amoxicillin anymore, even though it freaking cures me in 3 or 4 days. No, we're going to give you this other stuff that you're sick for a whole freaking 2 weeks. Because,
Yeah.
and here's why, and they won't tell you this. I had to look it up because they don't make
Mm-hmm.
money off of amoxicillin because it takes like $5 to make.
Yeah.
So, because they don't make a profit, I have to suffer through being sick for a week, for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's interesting. I would have assumed it was overregulated by the Biden administration because they overregulate every medication now. It's impossible to get medications, especially if they're having narcotic effect, even if it's like an
No,
allergy medication.
this is just, amoxicillin is bacterial based. And
Mm-hmm.
what the doctor tried to tell me was, oh, well, you don't have something bacterial. Yes, I do. It's called a sinus infection. An infection is bacterial. But they'll try to
Yeah,
tell you now, oh, it's viral.
that's not a virus, but yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I didn't get much sleep last night either, so I'm like, I'm kind
Well,
of
and I worked today
dysfunctioning.
too. I got up at like 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock and I had to
Oh,
work. So,
oh, okay. Yeah,
so not only I've been sick all week and coughing up a lung or two, but because of this stupid medicine that don't freaking work. But also like um like literally have been dealing with stuff with my son and stuff.
okay.
Not that he's like hard to handle or anything, but it's just, mommy doesn't feel good and he wants to jump around and have fun. Well, I get that, but I can't, not when I feel like this.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a lot. We were off last week, so we do have a lot to bring up, including the new Death of WCW documentary. We also have debuts on Raw and SmackDown this week. The pay per view was the week before that.
And I have
So,
nothing to say about the death of WCW because I watched at least Bret Hart's part of it, and I can't agree more with that dude.
yeah, Bret Hart, he gives zero fucks at this point. It's like
Exactly.
he tells you exactly how it went and how it went, and his feelings on everything. I think who was it? Either Cornette or Last said that Bret Hart is like the Canadian Jim Cornette at this point because he
It was
just
Brian Last. Yeah, I just heard that. I was just like,
yeah.
yeah,
Hey
that
Steve.
that explains it. But
Yeah.
like they were explaining how even like Goldberg getting sick of Bret Hart. Hey, you're the one who freaking did this stuff.
Yeah.
You're the one who should have backed off and you should have done exactly what Bret Hart told you to do because Bret Hart was a veteran.
Goldberg couldn't. He never learned how to wrestle.
Right.
That's the thing. At the power plant, the story, the power. He went out. He was a professional football player. He played for the Falcons for 7 seasons. He was mediocre, but whatever. He retired. He had a knee injury, and then he like, hey, let me try wrestling. He went to the power plant. They of course like, holy shit, he's huge. So he got basic training and for a year, and then they just threw him out there.
They threw him out
Literally,
there
he
and
threw him out there.
he only had 3 moves. He wrestled
Yeah,
for like a minute.
yeah. Because
He's like,
he
well,
looked
I
like
told Bret the kick was coming. Dude, you literally kicked him in the face. Brett couldn't even get his
Mhm.
hand up fast enough.
I think he thought it was a drop kick the way he put his hand up, like Goldberg's trying to do a drop kick, which he never done before. But I don't think Bret Hart watched any of his matches, so that's why he didn't know what was going on.
Right. Like Dusty said, don't do shit you can't do. Or
Don't do shit.
don't do the shit. I can't do the accent, can you?
Don't do shit that you can't do, baby.
Yeah.
It's the best I can come up with. It's pretty close, but
Yeah, that's
but
good. Better than
like
me.
yeah, I mean it's then who was it? One of the executives like Goldberg and Turner. What was his name? Forgetting his name. Not Brad. Damn. One of the executives like Goldberg and thought he basically said we should make him a star, which they never cared until they saw Goldberg. It's like, oh my god, I mean, because he was a football player, that's why they knew him. So it was like,
Well, then he looked like a knockoff of Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was getting hot on the other channel. This is like
yeah,
97. And around that time, that's when Austin started getting hot, and then it led into
right.
98. And then he had the thing with Mike Tyson, and the thing with Vince McMahon started. So, I mean, you had like a guy who sort of looked like the other guy who was getting hot, and he was like, oh, well, let's make him the next Stone Cold Steve Austin. But you couldn't. He wasn't Stone Cold.
Brad Siegel. That's the executive who he was a direct supervisor in WCW, and he's like, oh yeah, make Goldberg into a star. That's the only time he cared. I mean, because he's a professional football player, so it's like, but he can't work, he can't wrestle. It was like, just throw him out there. And Bischoff agreed because he's like, oh wow, he was a giant, Like I saw him the first time, like, oh wow, he looks like he can kick your ass, but he can't do anything in the ring. So it's like,
That's why his matches were like a minute.
Yeah, they, like Paul Heyman said, you hide the negatives and accentuate the positives. It's like,
right.
Okay, look at him. Spear, jackhammer, body slam, 1, 2, 3. Get out of there quickly as possible. And then he said nothing. So it was like, it's a mysterious character, just kicks your ass and walks away. Okay. That's why he got over by accident. I don't think they didn't know how over he would get, but
then he started. I mean, the streak went on way too long. People hated it. They started booing him, and they had to pipe in the Goldberg chants because no one was saying it. No one was saying it anymore. They were tired of it. And then, of course, Goldberg made it worse when he was a mark for himself. He's like, would Goldberg really lose a match to Scott Steiner? Yeah, because Scott Steiner would kick your ass.
Yes, he would.
And he wouldn't even think twice about it.
Scott Steiner would have put Goldberg in a pretzel, and there's nothing he could have done about it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Like
because Steiner did nothing he could have done about it. So it's like, yeah, Goldberg would lose a match to Scott Steiner.
Right.
You're lucky he's putting you over.
I was watching, who was that? Was it Scott Hall? I think was talking about how Scott Steiner got pissed off at him. Who was that? It was someone from WCW was explaining how Scott Steiner got all pissed off at him, and went to go tag Arn Anderson, and Arn Anderson's like, I'm not getting in there. That dude's pissed. So you didn't mess with Scott Steiner.
No.
I don't remember who that was now. I think it might have been Larry Zbyszko. Yeah, it was Larry Zbyszko. I had seen I've seen the behind it. I just on titlematch.com. If you want to check that out, it's on YouTube, titlematch.com. They have really great interviews, and one was Larry Zbyszko, because he was talking about old AWA, and then he was very briefly in the WCW with Scott Steiner or the Steiners, and he was saying like, oh, he was getting all pissed because he was stretching him and doing what he wanted to do, and Scott Steiner was pissed. He tried to tag Arn Anderson, and Arn's like, I'm not getting in there. No. He's pissed off, dude. I'm not getting in there with that bull.
So, yeah, I mean, Bischoff was like, well, I mean, we wanted to make Goldberg a huge star. I mean, look at him. And we knew he couldn't work, but.
Well, and as Brian Last said, they literally, what they did with Goldberg is, what they did behind the scenes is before Bischoff left the first time, Kevin Nash was the booker. So Kevin Nash became the booker and had some okay ideas, but they weren't great.
No,
If
and
anyone else could be a booker, I would pick Curt Hennig because at least he knew how to freaking wrestle. Kevin Nash
yeah,
had been
but
in the business for all of
Nash,
8 years.
yeah, Nash walked into the Bischoff's office, and Bischoff was just burnt out, and it's like, "Hey, I can take the book from you if you want. You can take a sabbatical." And Bischoff's like,
Yep.
"Okay." He gave him the book. He gave him control of WCW, and
Yep.
he went off. He left, and I'm like, he Nash, of course, probably knew that he was done, so it was like, "Hey, give me the book." And Nash changed the story. Initially, he claimed that he wasn't the booker when Goldberg lost. It was somebody else. Now in the documentary, he says, "Well, I was the booker, but it was all these reasons why Goldberg needed to be beat and blah 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 blah." So he changed the story, which is
Right.
not
And
surprising.
they did that taser angle too, where they tased him,
Scott
and
Hall,
that's
Scott
how he
Hall tased him,
lost. But
and I'm like, the taser. Even when I'm so stupid.
and so was the giving away the Hogan came to them and said, "Hey, I want to lose to Goldberg. I want to put him over." Okay, but don't do it on free TV. They did it on free TV. Do it with you know how Austin and them were doing
Mm-hmm.
angles, and McMahon, they were doing all these kinds of angles and stuff. Well, do that. I mean,
Yeah.
don't give this stuff away on free TV and then go, well, why wasn't it successful? Successful. Well, it wasn't
They
successful because you guys gave it away on free TV. No promotions, no nothing.
Yeah, what happened was they booked the Georgia Dome where Goldberg
Yep.
played football, for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes, sir.
So, and it wasn't promoted because it wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, Goldberg was going to be on the card, but he wasn't supposed to win WCW title that night. So Hogan, like being the politician, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll drop the belt to fucking Goldberg," and it's like, "What? I mean, really, you gonna do a job clean in the middle of the ring?" Well, the reason why, at least I think, is because it's a Georgia Dome, 40,000 people were there, and Hogan wanted to be the one, like, "Hey, I drew the house. Remember, it wasn't Goldberg."
Right.
So he
Right.
kind of
Remember my
cut
name
Goldberg.
because I'm the one who draws the houses. But the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
at least they gave away, Curt gave away it on pay per view because I don't know if you remember, there's supposed to be Curt and Goldberg at the American Bash, Great American Bash. But
Mm-hmm.
Curt, I don't know if he was really hurt or if he was just faking it. But at least they had something going with Kevin Green at Bash of the Beach.
Another football player.
Yeah. Well, and that they were trying to do the whole because I think Curt had attacked Kevin Green and said, I'm sick of these football players coming in and acting like wrestlers, which was kind of true. They were literally taking football players who couldn't
Yeah.
play football anymore
Yeah.
and bring them into wrestling, but they weren't teaching them how to wrestle. They were just
Well,
kind of, hey,
Goldberg
here's a pair of boots, go fight.
Goldberg was first, and it
Right.
worked. And they thought, hey, actually, no, was Steve McMichael first? I think he
Yeah, I
was
think
first.
so. Yeah, because
So
he
I'm
was with the
wrong. Yeah,
Bears.
yeah. So he came in first, and he was kind of successful. So like, hey, let's try. And then Goldberg came in. He was a megastar. And then it's like, hey, let's bring in other like Kevin Green, and then there were other ones I think too. So yeah, like it made Sam sick of these football players trying to be wrestlers or pretending to be wrestlers. Like,
And I have this on my X. If you guys go to my X, you will see this. That Master P crap. You know why the crowd was dead? Because they didn't know what the heck they were looking at. Master P, I guess, I don't know what he must have cleared this with Bischoff because it's literally a pile of shit, and the only thing that made it look good was Curt getting a cake put in his face. Do you remember
yeah,
this? When
yeah, I
Master
saw
P,
it.
they were
Yeah,
having some kind of birthday bash for his freaking brother. Okay, you can have that in a freaking restaurant. You don't have to have that on Nitro. The reason why the crowd's standing there going, "What the hell is this?" is literally because it was bullshit.
they were getting desperate. They paid celebrities to come in and do shit.
But no one knew
And
who Master P was, and his
yeah,
soldiers couldn't freaking wrestle.
the South,
Ask Barry Windham about that. Barry Windham will
the,
tell you.
the South. I mean, I think WCW that night was in the South, and Master P
Right,
was a mediocre rapper. From
right. And
so
again, to the audience, their baby face because they like a lot of people like country, and that
Yeah.
I like country. I grew up with 90s
Yeah.
country, the same that Curt liked. Because he would mention like Alan Jackson, John Anderson, Mark Chestnut, and I liked all those guys.
Yeah.
So so they all the audience saw was that their hero who liked country music got a cake put in his face.
Mm.
And they didn't think that was funny.
And the Master P crew is supposed to be the baby faces in that.
Right. But
Which
they
made no
forgot that
sense.
people out there do like country and hate rap.
And WCW is mostly the Southern audience still. Even though
Right.
Bischoff hated that or tried to get away from that as much as possible, but because he hired all the WWF guys, Savage and Hogan and Brutus Beefcake ended up there, and all of Hogan's crew. Horace Hogan, Hogan's nephew, got a job too, and he couldn't work. And so they try to get away from the Southern thing as much as possible, but it always felt like a Southern promotion.
Right, and
Like,
it technically it was, even though they would get to eventually they would go to California, and they would go to
yeah,
the Midwestern states. They even went to Minnesota quite a amount of times, and every time they did, I mean Larry the Axe was there.
yeah, because
Um,
they needed to draw a house, and nobody cared.
Nobody cared, right?
Because
And people liked Curt, and especially because Minnesota knew who Larry the Axe was.
mhm,
Of course, that was gonna draw because everyone knew who Larry the Axe was, and they wanted to honor him, and Curt wanted to be a part of that too. Um, but they forgot how to tell the story, and they forgot that there's people out there that really hate rap and really like country. So,
and
like I said, that audience, all they saw was their baby face getting a cake in his face because he gave
but
Master P's brother a cowboy hat.
it made no sense, that whole thing. And I think Bischoff paid Kiss like millions of dollars to come in and do a concert on Nitro for no reason.
For
Like, they
no
were getting
reason.
desperate, and
Yeah.
Kiss by that point was like way past their prime, so nobody really cared either. It was like in '99 or 2000, they were.
And here's the kicker. Yes, Curt was really singing, but none of those other guys were playing real instruments because they didn't know how. But Barry Windham said they actually put so many towels down on the drums so he wouldn't make a sound. But it sounded like he was making noise, right? It looked like it
Yeah,
too.
it
But
looked.
they were kind of like the Monkees of their day. You know how the Monkees
Hmm.
were not really a band?
Yeah.
They were just paid to become one because of their show.
Hulk. So, yeah, it was a disaster. And Hulk knew Goldberg couldn't work, so eventually the belt would transition back to him because he had creative control. So 8 months, the reign was like 8 months. He got beat by Kevin Nash in that ridiculous way. Then they did the finger poke of doom the next night on
Right.
Nitro, which
Right.
Nash still defends to this day. He's like, well, I mean, look, it got over. People hated it. That's the whole point. And people
No,
were
they hated
booing.
it because it was
Mhm.
stupid and lame, and no one wrestled.
No,
You
it
are in a
was
wrestling ring. Wrestlers wrestle in a wrestling ring. That's why you're in there. It's not to
Nash
do a
defends it
finger
to this
poke of
day.
boom. Yeah, well, Nash
He's
says
like,
things and
it was
he thinks
supposed to
they're
be
real.
it was supposed to be Nash and Goldberg, but Goldberg got arrested for something he did to Elizabeth allegedly. So, yeah, he got arrested. He's gone. Hogan comes back, is like, let's have a match instead. And Nash is like, okay. And they square off, and Nash takes a big bump. 1, 2, 3. I'm like, and NWO, they reformed the NWO again. Like, oh, another NWO reformation. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, they did so many things to the NWO. It was ridiculous. They should have just kept it as it was, not this red and black and white and black stuff.
Well,
I didn't understand that either.
Bischoff got obsessed with the NWO because he was in it. So he neglected the rest of the show and just focused all the shit on the NWO. And eventually, like 50 dudes were a part of it, and it got ridiculous. Like
They were
half the
talking
roster in
about
the NWO.
Yeah, they were talking to some of the wrestlers like Scott Norton and stuff, who should or shouldn't have been in the NWO. I think definitely Curt should have been because that's the way he was going anyway. I mean, he was gonna. What didn't make sense, and I have a picture of this, is 2 weeks before he turns on Ric Flair, he goes into the Four Horsemen. No, 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 no. That's bad storytelling, and that's what I say. They did the same thing with Curt that they did with Brett. They didn't know how to deal with a Curt Hennig who was
They
a mega
fucked.
superstar, and they just kind of, blew it up in his face. No,
They,
when he first comes in, he joins the Four Horsemen. He gains the trust of the fans, and then at Fall Brawl, when he turns, oh, that bastard, he turned. That
mm-hmm.
bastard, I know we should never have trusted him. But don't do
Yeah.
it 2 weeks before. That was stupid.
Yeah, they just didn't know what to do with like these athletic guys that could actually wrestle. So they brought in Bret Hart as the referee for the
Yeah.
Starrcade '97 match, which Hogan ruined, of course, because
Yeah.
which Hogan ruined. And just that right there, once they did that, it was like the fans lost trust, and it's like, okay, it was obvious that Sting should have gotten the belt, and that was the plan. All of a sudden, an hour before the show, Hogan's like, "Not tonight, brother, not tonight." And Bischoff, he had created control, so like they're scrambling, trying to find a finish that Hogan's happy with, and that's
Yeah, and
when
they should have just said, Hogan, this is how it's going to go. We're going to give the belt to Sting, and you can have it back whenever. They also should have said, we're also going to let Curt Hennig have it.
it like Hogan ruined the main event for his own ego. What happened? The whole match, Hogan took 90% of the match, like
Right.
kick Sting, booted him, leg drop, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
He won the match clean and took 90% of the match, and
Yep.
moderately sold for Sting comeback, barely sold for it. Like, and then he beat him up and pinned him. I was like, and it was and if you remember I think it was the NWO biography. No, it was the NWO biography where Hogan claimed it was supposed to be a Sting supposed to kick out, but he didn't. But he changed his story because initially he said the referee was supposed to do a fast count.
Yeah, that was that's what I heard on 83 Weeks from Eric Bischoff, is that he was supposed to have a fast count, but he screwed it up.
Nick Patrick never did a fast count. It
Yeah,
was his
Nick
normal
Patrick
cadence.
never did a fast count. So I was like, I went back and watched the match again. I went, oh shit, he didn't. He was supposed to do a fast count.
No,
And
he didn't.
and Bischoff blames Nick Patrick. But Nick Patrick said, no. Hogan came to me and said, you better do a real count.
Yeah, I mean, he like Sting said the way he tells it. Sting said, do a fast count. Hogan came to him and was like, oh, keep it nice and slow, brother. And Nick Patrick was like, Hogan's the man here, so I'm gonna listen to Hogan. I'm not gonna get fired, you know.
Yeah, no, Nick Patrick did not want to get fired. I'll tell you now, this is my opinion, but I think it's valid, very valid. The people who killed WCW, Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, and Goldberg. Those are the people that killed WCW.
Hogan was involved in nearly everything that led to the death of WCW. Starrcade '97, the Finger Coke of Doom, and there's like two.
Russo made the championship belt, making himself and David Arquette the championship.
That ruined WCW too.
You might as well have just pissed in the face of everyone who had it before. Except for Goldberg, I don't really care about that dude.
Because that belt had lineage back to the NWA World Title, which included the Ric Flairs, the Harley Races, the Jack Briscoes, Dusty Rhodes, Terry and Dory Funk. You can keep going back.
Might as well have just pissed in all their faces.
Yeah. Oh, was Harley in WCW then? I'm trying to, or did he leave? I know he was a manager for Vader. Like,
I think he had already left.
Yeah, I know he managed Vader in the early '90s in WCW, but I think he might have been gone by then. Because if he was there, Harley would have killed Russo and Arquette, and he wouldn't given a shit.
Yeah. That's why I say those are my Russo, Hogan, Bischoff, and Goldberg. Those are my four. And I get it that Goldberg's sick of Goldberg's sick of Bret Hart, but Bret Hart has a right to bitch. Here was a major hot superstar, and I disagree with Larry Sabisco on this. Larry Sabisco said, I never saw the Bret Hart that they saw in WWF. Okay, that's because this was a different Bret Hart who had just been screwed out of the title and screwed in WWF, excuse me. And now they were going to do stupid shit with him in WCW. And this is why I think, Goldberg needs to get over himself. If someone had done that to me, ended my career,
Yeah.
Well, I told him
Right.
about the kick. Well, you weren't supposed to kick him full blown in the fucking face. Excuse my French. And
Brett.
then he speared him, and he smacked his head on the
Yeah.
ring anyway.
Bret
Look,
Hart was.
right, and I have Bret Hart has every reason to bitch about this because that's bullshit. You
Yeah.
took that man's career and you ended it because you're a piece of shit who should have never been in the wrestling business in the first place.
He shouldn't have been broke in. Like I'm sure Jim Cornette, like, why do you break this guy in? You know, it's like they didn't give a shit. It was like,
No,
oh my
they
god,
didn't.
look at him, look at the look. He's gonna be a huge star. Let's
Yeah.
just shove him out there without him, you know, learning, like smartening him up or learning any moves at the very least. He's still a mark for himself to this day. He talks about, well, you know, I mean, I told Brett about the kick, but he had no clue. He's like, why?
But
He said, watch the kick.
yeah,
He's
watch the
like,
kick. But does that mean a drop kick? Does that mean you're
yeah,
gonna, you know, do no one? He didn't even say, "Oh, I'm gonna mule kick you,"
for real.
because they
And
would call it, a mule
it's a
kick.
mule kick. Yeah.
He didn't say drop kick. He didn't say mule kick. He didn't say he just said watch out for the kick. Well,
Yeah,
that
he
could mean
called it.
fucking anything, dude.
Bret Hart was like, I wasn't told that it was a mule, like a kick, you know, kick you in the head as hard as you can and you fall on the mat. And,
And
you
he
know, I
was
wasn't
already
told that.
concussed. He was
Yeah.
already concussed in
So
the match.
that was the first concussion. And Bret Hart was like, I willed myself up somehow to take a spear from this brute. And he got another concussion when he hit the back of his head on the mat. And, you know, and then, so he had 2 concussions in that match. And shortly after that, he told Russo that I have to retire. I mean, the doctor said I'm done. So he had to leave WCW after that, which ended his career. He was only early 40s. He had plenty of time left.
He was born in 57, so 97 he would have been 40.
42 by
About
99.
42, yeah.
Yeah. So he could have gone if he kept himself in shape another 10, maybe 12, 13, 14 years.
He had at least a few good more years,
Yeah.
just like Curt. When Curt went to XWF
Yeah.
in Australia, which was Brian Knobbs's baby, you know, he looked like a Greek god. He looked better than his dad, and he was 42 at the time. So, I mean, I think Bret Hart still had, you know, at least
Yeah, he
5
hit.
more years left in him, and of course, Goldberg ruined that. So,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do?
We got robbed of Bret Hart. I don't think he ever gone back to the WWF, even if the WCW thing went out. So he probably would have done XWF, and then he would have done TNA most likely because they got started in 2004 or no 2000. What was it? 2002.
2002, yeah, because
Yeah, they
Curt
did
would
the
be
week.
there at the end in like October, November,
Yeah, so
December.
Curt was fired in WWF around that time too. Then he went to TNA.
And that was
After
bullshit too.
the plane ride from
Because
hell.
I know at least 2 or 3 wrestlers who said they were never near the freaking door. So no one, so literally, and Jim Ross on the Dark Side of the Ring said Curt paid for the price for
Yeah,
what Vince McMahon had done the week prior or the time prior with Kurt Angle.
yeah.
So that was complete bullshit.
He took the fall for something that because they weren't going to fire Brock. I mean, Brock at that point, Vince wanted to build him to a new shiny star. So it was like
Right.
Brock
They
would win
should have.
Brock would win the WWE title at SummerSlam from The Rock and go on this massive run at that point. But
Right, but they didn't they could have I think they even fired Curt because of Ric Flair and what he did. Look, Curt wasn't even in that. That was not Curt's fault. He is not Ric Flair's caretaker or babysitter. But it seemed like Curt got blamed for all that.
yeah, Ric Flair loved I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago. He loved to expose himself for some reason. You know, that's what he would do.
Like anyone wants to see his raggedy old dick.
Yeah, he loved. Apparently, according to some wrestlers, it's like, oh well, he's pretty well endowed, but he liked exposing himself for some reason, and the boys popped for
60,
that.
I doubt he's well endowed. It's probably all wrinkly. Ugh.
I
Who
don't
would
know.
want to
I'm
see
just
it
going
anyway?
from wrestlers, you know. I'm just going for. I never saw it, but I'm just going from wrestlers
No,
saying.
I know. It's just it's like I first of all I don't need to know, and second of all he was what 60 when it happened, and you're talking about wrinkly ass balls. Yeah,
Yeah,
who wants to see
the,
that shit?
yeah. So and Flair also forced himself on a woman on their plane. You know that flight attendant who basically admitted who went on dark side of the ring too. And the company she worked for was like, yeah, don't talk about that. You know, we cater to a certain client, like athletes and stuff, and they're athletes. They'll do
Rich
that stuff.
people,
So,
rich
yeah,
people.
so it's nothing we can do. Just keep it to yourself. And she did initially, but I think she sued Vince. She sued WWE. Was it?
Yeah, I would too. I don't want to see no 60-year-old man's
She
crinkly
sued
old
Flair.
balls.
She sued
Ugh.
Flair in the WWF. No, I think it was
Especially when
WWE
they
at the
show
time.
it to me and want me to touch it. No, I'm not going to touch it.
And they settled out of court, but yeah, I mean, she got some money for it at least. But yeah, that was
Well, good for
ridiculous.
her. But I
Yeah,
still think that um, I still to this day say Curt paid for all that, and he
yeah,
didn't do any of it.
yeah. But they needed to fire somebody, so it was like, well, Kurt just came back, and and he had, they just picked somebody. Vince is like, fire Kurt. I don't know. I mean, shit. They didn't fire Scott Hall. I mean, Scott Hall was there, and he was like drunk out of his ass.
Yeah,
Like,
he was
he slept
on
it.
something.
He slept through the whole thing. He didn't even know what the hell happened. So Scott Hall was
And then
there.
he claimed that Kurt. Well, what happened was while he was in a drunken stupor or in a whatever he was, um, he said that Kurt roofied him. I'm like, Kurt wouldn't do that. First of all, second of all, you tried to lick a stewardess. That's what
I'm,
he did. He doesn't
I'm like,
remember, but that's what he did.
I laughed when he said like he claimed Kurt roofied him. I'm like, why would he do that?
Yeah, why would Kurt roofie you? Well, Kurt used to do it all the time. That doesn't mean he did it this time. See, Kurt gets blamed for everything, and the man wasn't even there. I wasn't even there. It was Owen.
It was. Mm-hmm. He slept through most of the flight. Everybody was drunk because the flight was delayed for like 2 hours. So, and they were
Right.
also serving them
And it was
unlimited
open
alcohol.
bar. Yeah, they
An
found
open bar.
alcohol
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. I mean, the thing between him and Brock was, it's boys being boys and they're just tussling a bit. They weren't even
Yeah.
near the door. But you can't blame Curt for what Ric Flair did. Curt Hennig is not Ric Flair's babysitter.
That
Nor is he
they.
Michael Hayes' babysitter. He's not Scott Hall's babysitter. He is not Brock Lesnar's babysitter. And he's also
Yeah.
not
It,
Dustin Rhodes' babysitter.
Dustin Rhodes was drunk off his ass singing into the fucking intercom to
With Terry,
Marlena
to
and
his
Terry.
ex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to his ex trying to get her to come back to him. So he was drunk off his ass too, and Michael Hayes was drunk, of course. He was always drunk. So
Well, it was Sean Waltman who cut his hair off, but they tried to blame Curt for that too.
Sean, yeah, Waltman said, well, I mean, he would do the the Freebird punch, which was this, with the knuckles. That he did that to Bradshaw and cut him back up again, and he tried to do it to somebody else, and he was drunk. He fell asleep, and X-Pac was like, "I'm gonna cut his hair." It's like, "Oh no, you're not, no, you're not." And the boy's like, "Yeah, go ahead," and like, "Oh yeah," like, that ponytail was gone. It's like, "Yeah, oh, it's
He
so
was
great."
pissed. He was pissed.
Yeah, it
Michael
was
Hayes was pissed. He's like
mm-hmm.
trying to fight everybody in the airport.
Yeah, it was like, "Who did it? Who did it?" And
It was
none of
Sean
the boys.
Waltman.
It was Waltman.
Yeah, and he tried to blame Curt. Oh, Curt Hennig did it. No, Curt
And
wasn't even near Michael Hayes.
Kurt did it. They all blame Kurt for some
Curt
reason.
did it. See, Curt gets blamed for everything. And he's not these people's babysitters. He's not. I mean, he was a great. And I just saw something about Barry Windham had talked about. Did Curt have a drug problem? He said, "Well, he did the pills." I said, "Yeah, but that you have to understand." And I'm not blaming anybody except for Big Pharma, because Big Pharma, they're the ones who literally put these pills out there for wrestlers, saying, "Oh, they'll take away your pain." Because you try
They
wrestling
were.
a match for 60 minutes a night and not getting pain after that.
Yeah.
A lot of these pills were marketed for wrestlers and other athletes, and yeah, it got them addicted.
Yeah, they got
And that's
high
why
off.
they were overdosing on other stuff.
Yeah.
But Curt did not have a drug problem. He had a pain problem because he hurt his back. And he was
Yeah.
taking pills for that back pain and other stuff. And he was detonating the pain with alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, Curt would
A,
have
lo-
a beer or two. He
a
always
lot of
did.
guys would. A lot of guys would mix the pain pills with alcohol.
Yeah, and that was a bad combination. But
Yeah.
nobody knew that at the time until all
Hmm.
these wrestlers were dropping like flies. And I
Uh.
said in the comment section, I said, look, Curt didn't have a drug problem. He had a self-deletion problem. I said, that's why he is no longer with us, because he felt unhopeful. He was in a dark place. Because if Barry Windham knew that Curt was on cocaine and doing cocaine and
Hmm.
addicted to it, trust me, he would have said so.
Yeah.
But no, he did have a Percocet because again, that was to take away the pain of wrestling.
Yeah. I mean,
Barry was
all
the
of
same
these.
way. She was on muscle relaxers.
So was what's his face? The Freebird. Terry Gordy.
Terry Gordy, right?
Yeah, he famously died on a plane on his way to Japan, and they brought him back, but he's never the same. Like he was kind of like he didn't like he lost too much. He didn't get enough oxygen to his brain, and never the same. Like, he still wrestled, but it was still Terry Gordy, but he was never the same. His promos were like, blah, blah, blah. It's like he was not there anymore. He was like
Yeah.
he was going through the motions.
And that's what Big Pharma wanted. They wanted these wrestlers to get on these pills, and they knew they were on alcohol, so they were mixing them, and they knew that these guys were going to overdose, and they didn't care. That should tell
So
you something about Big Pharma. It doesn't care about our wrestlers.
so
Doesn't care about us.
so many wrestlers, and then we're dropping dead. It was like by the time Benoit did what he did, there was like a list of all the wrestlers who passed since like the early '90s, and
Mhm.
it was like this, like, oh my, yeah, we've lost a lot of them, and they put Owen Hart there too, and it's like, but Owen didn't die because of drugs or alcohol.
No, he
It,
died because
it,
of Vince McMahon wanting him to do a stunt he shouldn't have been doing.
it's stupid. It was like there was no need for it. He was like second match as the Blue Blazer. Like there was no need for it. It was
And
like
he
he's
never
never.
did any of that stuff in the early 80s or in the late 80s. Like at WrestleMania 5 with Curt, he came right down the stairs like a normal human being.
Like there was no need for that stunt. He was second match. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
they didn't
Shawn
need to.
Michaels.
Yeah, they didn't need to have something like Sting where Sting would come down
Yeah,
from the ceiling. They didn't have to do that.
like
The Blue Blazer was not Sting.
It wasn't Shawn Michaels in the main event of WrestleMania 13 getting ready to beat Bret Hart for the belt. So they wanted a fancy entrance. So
Right.
from the top of the arena, ride your way down. And Shawn
And it
was
was
like,
a quick release
yeah,
because they had changed it from a normal one to a quick release, and that's what happened.
yeah, which was a mistake because it just popped right off, and well,
Down
what
he went.
happened, yeah. And he didn't, because the thing was CNN who they put him with all the wrestlers who died because of drugs or alcohol, and it was like, well, that's wrong. He didn't die of drugs
No,
or
that was
alcohol.
Vince McMahon all the way.
I just hope Owen would have said, no, I'm not doing it. I don't care what you said. He wasn't
He really
comfortable with
was
it.
apprehensive. He really didn't want to do it, but I think he was afraid that if he said, "Look, Vince, I just can't do this," Vince will be like, "Okay, you're gone. See ya. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out."
But this is after the screw job, so I thought he would love to leave. It was like, see ya.
Yeah, I mean,
But
he was really hesitant about it. At least that's what they said, that he kind of didn't want to do it. He was trying to talk himself into it, and he was very apprehensive.
it was a match with the Godfather for the Intercontinental title. It was second
Yeah, and it
match.
should have been. It literally should have been him just coming out like he normally does, out from the entrance, safely on the ground.
Like, there was
If
no
that had
need for
happened,
that
we would
stunt.
still have. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd still have an Owen Hart today.
Yeah, he probably would have retired because he was already talking about retirement and being a
Becoming a
firefighter.
firefighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had said that earlier.
Yeah, which I found like, but he really retired pretty young. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't Brett. Like, Brett wanted to wrestle forever, and He just wanted to be with his family, which I respect. I mean, which at least he would have been alive, and gone in the Hall of Fame alive. He's still not in the Hall of Fame to this day because Martha won't allow it. But she allows Tony Khan to fuck up his name with those stupid tournaments he does every year.
Stupid tournaments. Yeah. Well, I hate to beat a dead horse, but let's move on to the Drew McIntyre. I honestly thought for a second he might actually quit because I said that on my newest episode. I was kind of like, look, Drew, if you really have quit, if this isn't a storyline, look, dude, everybody needs to calm the crap down. Everybody calm down. There will be another Clash at the Castle. Okay. There will be another chance to get Damian Priest, Drew will have another chance to get the title.
It's
okay.
twice.
Everybody, let's calm down now. Okay.
In 22, I mean, he had a match with Roman. Everybody thought he was gonna, beat Roman. I was like, he's not gonna beat Roman. There's no chance he beats Roman at Clash at the Castle in Scotland. I'm sorry. If he's gonna lose, it's at WrestleMania. He's not gonna get beat anywhere else. So they did the match. It was good. Solo Sikoa debuted and cost him the title. Okay, fine. It happened again 2 years later. This time with Damian Priest, and the fans lost it. I mean, because of Punk, which is brilliant. I saw that match, even though I didn't watch it live. It was brilliant the way they did it. I loved it.
He just kind of slid in. Nobody knew it was Punk, and then he
was looking
looked
down,
up, and it's Punk.
But I mean,
everybody saw. I don't know if you saw it, but I saw it on X. He got back at CM Punk. He bloodied him up. Oh, sorry, we're not allowed to say that. Sorry, he messed him up.
Yeah,
he messed him up on TV, and he took the band off or something. Doesn't
Oh yeah, he had something
bracelet or something
that his wife made him. Yeah, it was a bracelet his wife made him, and he took it
off of Punk's wrist and put it on his own wrist. And, just kind of like did this, and like, now who's the big dog? See, that's what I thought. It had to be a storyline because you don't just up and quit just because you lose in Glasgow.
Yeah, it was a storyline. It was obvious. But I think my mother watched pay-per-view live, and I wasn't here, and she was like, and I told her, look, McIntyre needs to get back at Punk. He already screwed him 3 or 4 times already. At some point, McIntyre needs to get him back, or else he looks like a bitch. Like, Punk keeps screwing him, and he's like not doing anything about it. He finally did something about it, and it was good. It was brutal, and and Punk went to the hospital, like the storyline. But he went to the hospital, and that it needed what now you're cooking for whenever we're gonna have that match, which I'm assuming is at SummerSlam.
And that's good. That will generate some needed marketing promotions that they needed to kind of sell this off. And it was kind of like all you saw was like the thing go up, and then there's Punk on the ground, and here's McIntyre doing this.
It's the WWE.
It looked good.
The WWE's filming and the way they're producing things are so much better since Kevin Dunn retired, or left the WWE.
Well, that's
so much better. Yeah, and Vince was gone.
Now that it's Triple H, it actually looks real. You're like, oh no, we beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, they were doing another segment. I don't remember what it was. I mean, wrestlers arguing, and then they all kind of did this and left, and and that opened up perfectly to see what McIntyre did to Punk, and is like, holy shit.
Exactly. It was exactly what that needed to happen at the time, and it's good storytelling. So now everyone's interested. Oh, what's going to happen is what's McIntyre or what's Punk going to do when he gets out of the hospital to McIntyre? It's like game on.
I mean, they're heating this up because the match's going to happen soon. I'm not sure whether it's at SummerSlam or
give them a little taste at a time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're hungry, you don't eat a 4-course meal or 3-course meal or whatever. When you're hungry, you eat little by little. So you're just feeding them what they need to know right now. This is excellent storytelling. Kudos to Triple H.
Yeah, I mean, he's overall, he's not there's no such thing as a 100% like a booker, but overall, I mean, he's been fantastic since he's taken over from Vince.
And McIntyre looks like a wrestler. He doesn't. He's not this 185-pound guy trying to act like a little wrestler. No. McIntyre's big. He's tall. He's he looks the part. He's got the moves. He's got the talking. Even with the kilt.
He stopped wearing the kilt, I think.
I jest. Now, hey, Piper wore the kilt.
Yeah, he stopped because Vince
when
had
in
him
Rome.
with the kilt and the sword. In his first title
I like
runs.
that sword though. That sword is pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean it was good, but it was holding. His promos were like awful. Then it was like
wow,
he was brutal.
But I think they've gotten much better over the years.
Yeah,
but for the most part, he looks like a wrestler. He looks like a wrestler we grew up with.
Yeah, he does, and it's. I mean, Vince was holding him back with the promos, and all of a sudden now he's masterful now. It's like, where did this come from? He grew a personality all of a sudden, which is great. I mean,
it was always there. It just was being held back. And
yeah,
that's what. Sad to see that Vince McMahon was pushing that, or
he was holding him
back.
That. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because he wanted him to be this brooding Scottish warrior guy, which is fine, but he was just.
Well, now he's gotten revenge on Punk, and now let's see what happens with Punk. I'm very interested to see what Punk his next move is.
Oh yeah, I mean now I can't wait to see either, and it's like, oh wow.
And I don't even watch modern wrestling. I don't watch WWE. Let's put it that way.
No,
I need a palate cleanser, especially when I hear about AEW and the crap they're doing. I'm just like, I'm watching horrifying. Old WWF.
The WWE is miles better than what AEW is doing right now. Yes. And I don't really watch most of WWE. It's like I only watch the parts that I'm interested in. Or just clips on YouTube. I mean, that's the beauty of YouTube. They put up clips. I watch what I'm interested in, and that's it. Mm-hmm. I don't watch the whole shows, really. I mean, I can't watch. Raw's brutal. It's like 3 hours now, and it's like,
oh, geez. I only remember when it was 2 hours, but that was back in the Attitude Era. That's back when we knew what wrestling was, and it was Stone Cold. Mm-hmm. I found it's really cool on X. There's a picture of Austin doing this to Klaus Schwab. I went, oh, if he could have done that to Klaus Schwab's face, I would have loved it.
Yeah, I saw that. It's really like then.
Oh, I love that. I'm like, oh, I wish.
They overexpose Raw. I mean, it was just overexposed, and a lot of the matches are filler because they don't need 3 hours. So it's like, but USA insists on it because they want to sell an extra hour of commercial. So it's like, we got to produce an extra hour of Raw. Then they're paying us for it. So. And SmackDown is 2 hours. The only reason why that is because Fox has the 10 o'clock news. So the local news, so they can't do 3.
Yeah, they're kind of doing what WCW did. WCW started at 2 hours, so it's from 8 to 10. And then they're like, hey, you want to go an extra hour? We'll go an extra hour. And then it became 3 hours, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, I got to go to bed at 10.
Nitro's brutal. It was brutal when those 3-hour shows.
It was.
And it was at its worst, too. Because this is 99, 2000, and it was...
Right.
It wasn't like the... And they overexposed it. They didn't have enough talent for 3 hours. Or they didn't have enough good talent. They had plenty of talent. It's just that they had like 300 wrestlers in their contract at one point. And they only used 50 of them.
Yeah.
So they were paying guys to stay home.
To stay home, right.
So don't work for Vince. Here's a bunch of money. It's like, okay.
Yeah, Bischoff, they said that on the Jim Cornette show that literally he was like a drunken sailor spending money wherever he could. So, I mean, yeah, I get that. The people who should have been on that show would have definitely been Bret Hart, Curt Hennig, not maybe Hogan retire, or, they got him back into the yellow and red, and come on, guys.
Well,
bad storytelling at that point.
Hogan went away for a while, and then the NWO was pretty much done at that point.
He did another movie, Assault on Death Mountain. It was Assault on Devil's Island and Assault on Death Mountain.
Hogan's movies were all awful. The only one I kind of liked was No Holds Barred, which was his first movie.
I liked No Holds Barred. I liked Mr. Nanny because it was cute. I liked the kids. and the guy who played the bad guy, he played in Scrooge. He played the taxi driver in Scrooge. Scrooge. And then I also I like Assault on Devil's Island and Assault on Death Mountain because it has Carl Weathers in it. And the guy who plays their captain, he always played a bad guy. Like he played a shadow assassin in Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. He played Demetrius in Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, and he was an evil guy. He always played the bad guy. In this, he was a good guy. In both movies, he was a good guy.
Yeah, Hulk went away to do that movie, and then he came back in the yellow tights again, like old school Hogan.
Because it was him and Curt. Because Luger and Flair were now heels, and they were trying to break everybody's arm, so they would hurt your arm. So Curt came out in this cast, and then Hogan comes out in the red and yellow and goes, when him and I were running the NWO like thugs, I'm like, well, Hogan, I don't remember you allowing Curt to run the NWO. But
no,
whatever.
he was like a side character, He was there, but it wasn't like Hogan would put him over, and try to, like, oh yeah, Curt, me and Curt, we're running shit here in the NWO. No, he was like there, like what's his face, Virgil was there. He was just there, or no, or his name was Vincent in WCW.
Vincent, yeah,
yeah, but he was
they
there.
said like literally that there was too many people in, and not all those people should have been. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, if anyone who was supposed to go in, it should have been Curt Hennig. It definitely should have been Curt Hennig because he made that team cool.
Yeah, Hogan, Hall, and Nash were the original three, and then it blew up. Ted DiBiase was the fourth, and then it just grew out of control after that. Like, the only way it got, like, oh, you want to get over? Here's an NWO shirt, you'll get over. And they did initially, but it just got out of control.
Yeah, and something about Bischoff had said, I don't remember this, but I'm not sure who said it, but like I think I think Bischoff said on his 83 weeks that like they were supposed to take over Thunder. Thunder was supposed to be an NWO show. So they were getting all these guys thinking they were going to get Thunder. But it was WCW Thunder, not NWO Thunder.
Yeah, I don't think Turner executives were really comfortable with having that show be NWO Thunder, like, and try to
But that's what they were trying for. That's why they got all those guys. But like the whole storyline where Curt turned, the only part I would do differently is instead of 2 weeks before he turns on Flair, I would have him join the Four Horsemen when he first came in.
Yeah, that
Flair
way
comes out and says, "Oh, be a part of the Four Horsemen." He goes, "Okay, yeah, sure, I'll take Arn Anderson's spot or whatever." They could have done that back when Curt first came in.
That made no sense. I mean, it's classic WCW, just last second booking. Like, oh yeah, let's put Curt in the Four Horsemen 2 weeks before he turns on Flair, but it doesn't mean anything because Flair didn't have time to trust him, and to become friends with him, And
I understand that Curt, no one, you can see it in an interview, but like Curt had admitted that he really didn't want to be in the Four Horsemen. He didn't like at this time. He wasn't really fond of Ric Flair. He might have liked Flair in the beginning, but because Flair screwed him just as much as Hogan did, he did not like Ric Flair after that.
Yeah, well, Curt Hennig was supposed to get a big push and face Hogan for the title in 92 or 3-ish. I remember it was talked about. If somebody,
it was in 89, actually.
Oh, was it 89?
Yeah, it was 89.
At some point.
And Hogan axed it. In 92, Curt was going to come back from his back injury and Flair said, "No, I'm not going to give him the title." Because he said, "Vince, I want to push. I want to be the champ." And it was Flair that said, because Vince told Curt this. Well, sorry, Ric Flair said he doesn't want to face you. So we're not going to do it.
Flair became champion at the Royal Rumble in 92 and dropped it to Brett in October or November at the end of that year.
Yep.
He dropped it to Brett, but he wouldn't to Curt. I don't know why, but because
the thing is, everyone has to understand Ric Flair has done this to his friends. If it did not benefit Ric Flair, that's why they said that he has to stop being a booker in WCW because everyone hated Flair as a booker. Because if it didn't benefit Ric Flair, it didn't happen.
Yeah, when
They say that about Dusty too, but I don't see it because Dusty put over so many other people other than himself.
if I remember correctly, most of the time Dusty was the booker, Flair was the champion. So he was
Right.
chasing Flair. So it wasn't like Dusty put the belt on himself and he held
Right.
it for 2 years.
But
That's
but when Flair was the booker, if it didn't benefit Ric Flair, guess what? It didn't happen. He
no,
did that to his friends. He would stab his friends in the back. Well, that's a good way to never have friends ever again.
yeah,
I mean, if you hear
because
Ole Anderson talk about Ric Flair, he hated him. I've seen Ole Anderson's
well, Ole hated everybody. To be
yeah,
fair.
but I mean, especially he hated Ric Flair. He's like, Ric Flair still owes me money. He owes all his friends money because he literally took all money from his friends and never paid them back.
Yeah, I mean, Ric Flair. I mean, he's like it just about himself, and he's still to this day acting like the Nature Boy. Woo, silent profiling. We covered him a month ago, getting drunk at that restaurant and
Yep.
talking down to those workers. I'm like,
Yeah, you
dude,
Egyptian instead of
it's
dipshit.
like he's Rick. Like, come on, Rick. He's still drinking. I mean, I don't know how he has a liver because he's been drinking
Yeah, I
like
mean, he's like,
every
what, 76 years
yeah,
old?
yeah, and he's still drinking every day. Like he's it's 1986, and I'm Ric Flair. I'm the world champ. Silent profiling. Woo!
And how any woman finds him attractive enough to screw him. Whoa. You see something there, girly, that I don't see.
And it's not even money anymore because he's still paying
Right.
alimony like 6 different ex-wives. So it's not
That's
even
why
money.
he said he was broke. He had to go back to wrestling because he was
Uh,
broke. He was paying alimony because he cheated on every wife he's ever had.
Yeah. And,
Why do these women keep marrying him? Ugh.
well, back in those days, it was for the money. I mean, Ric Flair was wealthy and he was a world champ, and he's
Fair
a
enough.
top guy. So yeah, they would all marry him, and then they would cheat on him, or he would cheat on them, and then they would leave, and the alimony came in, and all of a sudden, 6 ex-wives. I'm paying them all alimony, by the way. So like,
Yeah.
whoops. But, hey, come on. I mean, it's Ric Flair was the WWF champ. Vince put the belt on him. I'm surprised. I mean, because he wasn't the big, the standard world champion for Vince. He's just a smaller guy, and it was like he wasn't Hogan. I thought the '92 Royal Rumble was one of the best, like the best I've ever seen. There's so many Hall of Famers, and there's so many legends in that match. It was
The
it was
only one they
great.
were missing was Curt, and that's because he hurt his back.
Oh yeah, he just left, or either he just retired and became a commentator, or he became a commentator, I think, around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was great. It was I was a kid, like, oh, Hogan's gonna win. Like Hogan always wins, so it was like whatever. And then
Was
he did.
Hogan even in it?
Yeah, he was in it.
Oh, okay.
He got eliminated by Sid Vicious, or Sid
Okay.
Justice, they called him then.
Yep.
He's
Sid
eliminated by
Justice.
Sid Justice, and Hogan was like, "You screwed me! How could you do this to me? We were friends." And blah blah blah. And looking at the fan, Hogan's milking into the fans. He's like, "I can't believe he eliminated me." And then Hogan was involved in the finish when he grabbed Sid's arm, and then Flair, helped Flair eliminate him. So Hogan, of
Okay.
course, had to be involved in the finish, even though
Of
he was
course,
eliminated
yeah.
already. So he
It kind of
helped
like
Flair become champ.
if you ever saw the Royal Rumble 89, excuse me, Royal Rumble 89, where the Giant eliminates himself because Jake the Snake comes back out with the
Yes, I
snake.
saw. I remember that. Yeah, Jake pulled out the snake, and Andre was like, "Okay, let me
Nope, I'm out
eliminate
of
my."
here. Bye.
Yeah,
Stepped over the ropes.
he
But all
eliminated
the
himself.
wrestlers were like trying to like back up. Wait, whoa, there's a snake in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Curt even like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to talk about I see Wyatt's sixth debut. Is
Oh yeah,
this Bo Dallas?
yes.
His brother now?
This is the Wyatt family storyline, which they brought back.
Okay, I heard about this, but that Bo was gonna take over the
Yeah,
Fiend.
no,
He was he
he's
was gonna
Uncle
bring back
Howdy.
Uncle Howdy, yeah.
Yeah, he initially played the role when Bray was
Captain
first
Howdy.
started this
Was it
story.
Captain
Yeah,
Howdy or Uncle Howdy?
Uncle
Okay.
Howdy. Yeah, and then they played, and then the story started, and Uncle Howdy was talking to Bray about, this is not, because he came back, it wasn't your true personality. I'm going to bring out your true personality. It was supposed to lead, I assume he's supposed to lead to a match. But of course it never did because Bray got sick, and he got hurt or he got sick because he's supposed to work with Bobby Lashley in that WrestleMania.
I think didn't he leave because he was having some kind of,
I think he got sick.
not just medical stuff, but I think wasn't he having psychological stuff too?
Yeah, he left. He left the last second, and Bobby didn't have a match. Instead, he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal before. This stuck him in that, and he won. But yeah, Bobby was apparently pissed, but it's like, it wasn't. He was sick. He was having issues. He couldn't really work, so he's supposed to come back a month. He died a month before his return, and continue the story.
That's really, really sad. I'm really sorry that happened, but
yeah, he passed.
He had something wrong with his heart.
Yeah, he's supposed to wear a vest when he sleeps, and just it would zap his heart back if it stopped while he slept. He fell asleep and it wasn't on. So by the time they found him, it was too late to bring him back. So he was gone. But yeah, it was tragic, and it took. He died. I don't remember exactly when he died. I forget right now, but it took 6 months.
2003. He was as old as he was younger than we were. A year younger than we were. He was 87.
Yeah, so it took a while after he passed before they finally. I heard rumblings that they're gonna do this again, and like, I don't know if it's gonna work. I didn't hear that, but I don't know if it's gonna work without Bray Wyatt. He was the mastermind of the story,
but I mean, if Bo wants to do this tribute to him,
yeah, basically what it is.
I'd give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. Katui on that thing, that's what I say. But who wants to Louie on that kind of stuff?
I agree. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance, but
did you see that? It's all over X. This woman just went Katui on that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Who would want a Hakalugi on your man's dick? Okay, whatever.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, he came back, and they did this on Raw. They killed everybody. I saw Gunther. I saw I think it might have even Triple H and Bruce Pritchard were like kind of like dead too. They did everything. They took out the entire production staff back there at the Gorilla. Then they went into the aisleway there, and they did a close up on Chad Gable, like he was.
Okay.
And then here comes Uncle Howdy, and the fans popped for it. So it wasn't like they're excited to see this story. And I am too, but I'm like, is it going to work without Bray? We'll see what happens, but I'll give it a chance. But
yeah, give it a chance before you just throw in the towel, so to speak.
Yeah, you have to at least put it on television, see what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened. Basically, they returned, and this is after Jey Uso qualified Money in the Bank. So that's the pay-per-view in 2 weeks. By the way, it's 2 weeks away. By the way. So they're building towards that pay-per-view. They have 2 weeks to basically fill like 8 spots in the Money in the Bank match, or 6 spots. So they're having all these qualifying matches kind of rushed. I'm like, why not just have them they only have 5 matches at Clash of the Castle. Like, put some qualifying matches there. Put some more guys on the card. Right. Instead of like 2 weeks before qualifying matches. Oh my God, we got to rush and do this show. It seemed kind of rushed.
Do you even want to mention AEW at this point? I mean, they had the lowest ratings they've ever had in their lifetime.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Mm-hmm.
Did you see that though?
Yeah. They got 505,000 overall. And it's just one of the worst. It was.
Why are they still in business? Come on.
They got 5.
Papa
NXT. NXT beat them 750,000. They beat them by a lot too this past week. And I'm like, it's so brutal.
It's time to pull the plug, Papa Khan. I'm sorry, but this is worse than. I'm pretty sure it was worse than WCW at this point.
WCW never got this low. They never got anywhere near this low.
Yeah.
Even at their worst in 2001, never got that low.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's time to pull the plug, guys. Time to pull the plug.
The Bucks are all over this show where they're somehow trying to remake the NWO, and it's not working. Him and Jungle Jackoff and Okada and
Vince should have never brought the NWO to WWE. No
Oh no,
offense. You should have just let the NWO die where it should have been, and that's WCW.
yeah, it was awful. I mean, they brought it back in February. By WrestleMania, Hogan basically the fans turned him babyface against that match against The Rock, and Hall and Nash turned on him and attacked him. That was 2 months of the NWO, and the NWO continued. Like Shawn Michaels joined and Booker T joined, and it was just terrible. It's like, why just end it? If just end it. But I digress. I mean,
They should have left it in WCW.
Yeah.
No offense, but they should have left it in
it was bad.
WCW, because that whole because they took out Booker T. He wasn't allowed to be in it anymore. At one point, I think they kicked out Shawn Michaels too.
Yeah, and it became just Nash and Jabronis. I don't remember who was even in the NWO. Oh, X-Pac was there too in the NWO.
Yeah, that's it.
It was Nash, X-Pac, and Jabronis, and it was like, why is Vince continuing this? I don't know, but
when they said the NWO has now become NXT, and I went, I hope not. I hope not.
No, that's TNA. Like TNA's putting talent, and they're allowing some of their talent to appear in NXT, which is why that's probably the reason why they are the NXT. And I don't know how WWE benefits from that. I guess like let us look at certain talent we want to take from TNA, and also NXT people were supposed to appear on the pay-per-view for TNA too. So I'm guessing that's how they benefit each other. But
well, the whole NWO thing. Anytime you hear like when I first heard Alex Jones say NWO, I went, NWO? The NWO is not anymore. There is no NWO. Oh, that NWO.
Yeah.
Okay. So anytime anyone mentions the NWO, I always go for knife.
Yeah, I mean it's wrestling now. Wrestling kind of took it, and people
kind of made it a joke. But I mean, it was what it was, and on the top of 96 and 97, the NWO was at the top of their game. They were beating the crap out of WWF. And then they got Austin and they had Tyson, and then they split the NWO, and I didn't know what the heck they were trying to do with it. And then in the NWO Red and Black and the NWO White and Black Hollywood, and I'm like, all right, the NWO is dead because I mean this is done.
Bish. Then you had and Jericho doing terrible segments. I mean, they're getting worse and worse every week. I'm looking at it, and it's like the learning tree, and he has his own talk show for no reason. It's getting worse with Jericho.
Well, and I saw on I don't remember the channel, but it's like 10 or 15 wrestlers who protected their opponent, and you could kind of see they stuck their hand out so their opponent wouldn't smack their head on the floor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one was Jericho, and they actually showed where Jericho tried to do the moonsault onto Curt Hennig, but Curt brought his legs up because technically, if Jericho had done what he done and Curt hadn't put his knees up, he would have hit Curt right in the stomach and knocked the wind out of him because he didn't do the line salt right. He landed on his back where he's supposed to flip over onto his stomach and come down on his opponent. He couldn't do it right. He didn't do it right. He jumped, but he never got the flip. And, and this is why I go back to Dusty when he said, "Don't do shit you can't do."
Mm-hmm.
He could have injured Curt really severely. He could have knocked the wind out of him, and that's dangerous.
I saw that Jericho signed like a 10-year contract with AEW. He's in his 50s. I mean, is he going to be...
I wouldn't doubt that. They had a picture of him standing there, and then they had a picture of this, like, it looks like I don't know, like a fat thing, with all these folds and stuff. And it's like, this is what Jericho looks like. Yeah, because you're old and nobody wants to see your wrinkly ass anymore.
It's awful. I mean...
It's like Flair. Nobody wants to see his wrinkly ass either.
It's awful. And then... they're burying their world champion Swerve. He's doing matches. No, it's not him. No, he's doing competitive matches with job guys, basically. I'm like, just beat him. You don't need to have a 20-minute match. To like 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Get out, just beat him. Get out of there. Why are you overexposing yourself? You're the champion. It's
when
like
Curt
when
did job matches, they only lasted about 5 minutes.
Andy, yeah, but yeah, it doesn't make they're burying themselves. It's like oh hey, 20-minute match, isn't it great? It's a good match, but what are you accomplishing? Nothing. You're just burying your world champion. He's struggling to beat some random dude on TV for no reason. It's like Cody has. I can count on one hand how many times Cody wrestled since he won the title on SmackDown. Like he wrestles on pay-per-view, but on SmackDown he wrestled this past week, but that's rare. I mean,
he had a baseball bat with CM Punk. Like, what are the baseball bats for?
Oh yeah, Punk was playing around and like chased him with a bat.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna chase you.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? What is this, happy hour?
Yeah. I mean, it's just bad. Yeah, and then Will Ospreay is wrestling around because Ospreay is facing him at the pay-per-view, Forbidden Door, at June 30th. Not tomorrow, but the next Sunday. And Ospreay is wrestling some like 15-minute match with some job guy on Rampage. I'm like, okay, nobody watches Rampage. Who cares? But let's say, like, why are you wrestling a competitive match with a job guy on Rampage? Like, why are you doing that? Don't you overexpose yourself? And then it's like, and then it makes like, oh yeah, the world title, which Ospreay is probably gonna win that world title. And they like, there's no way he does a job right now. And he just
because what are they doing with Swerve? Absolutely nothing. Swerve looks like a jobber. He looks like a jobber, and he has the belt, the heavyweight belt.
Yeah, he's
I'm
going
sorry.
to.
That upsets me to no end. You gave him the belt. Stop acting like he's a jobber. He's leading your company.
Tony doesn't. He doesn't care about Swerve. He put the belt on him on a February.
Well, then take it
Black
off
History
of him.
Month, and then it's like it was Black History Month. That's why he got the belt. It wasn't. And Samoa Joe, Samoa Joe was the champion. Okay, you needed him to drop the belt. Fine. But put some effort into it. Even if Swerve is a transitional champion, you want another belt. You want to put on somebody else. Fine. Put some. Make him important. Like Mick Foley calls himself the greatest transitional champion of all time, but they put some effort into him. WWF that wins the champion.
Well, and what Jim Cornette was saying about Mercedes Moné. Sorry.
Yeah, she's awful. she's exposed.
She's wrestling like a heel, but she's a baby face. Can you do that?
No, it doesn't. It confuses the audience. Like, okay, are you like 1 week you're a baby face, the next week you're a heel, and you wrestle like a heel and you act like a baby face. It's like
exactly.
What are they doing? Like, what is she? It's same thing they're doing with Toni Storm and her angle with some Japanese girl she's working with pay-per-view. At one point she's a heel, the next week she's
Asuka?
a baby face. No, some Japanese girl from Japan. Yeah, it's like she's not Asuka's still in WWE, but
oh, my bad.
yeah,
sorry, Asuka.
Yeah. I mean, but she's injured right now, but yeah, and they're doing like this lesbian angle where they're all
God, come on,
like touching. They're like hugging each other, and their faces are in their both of their tits for no reason, and it's like this is teenager stuff from the 90s. Is this
like Vince Russo shit again with all those
Tony Khan
wrestlers?
is booking like Vince Russo, and what are you doing? I mean,
chicks that would never give him the time of day unless he paid him off.
Yeah, it's like Tony's a horny teenager. He's like in his 40s. Like he's a little older than us, but it's like, what are you doing? You're a grown man. You don't need to book this stuff. But yeah, he did. That's awful. And
obviously the fans thought it was awful. That's why they had lower ratings.
500,000.
Yeah.
NXT, I don't think they ever got that low. Maybe they did during, at some point they were at 500,000. It's like when is enough? Like
enough. Yeah. When is it enough? Papa Khan. Time to pull this plug.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. Make sure you like if you haven't already. So. But yeah, I mean, it's enough. But the problem is Tony's never going to pull the plug. As long as Tony is interested and, he's motivated to continue doing this, they'll fund it. He'll fund it. And he'll use his daddy's money, and his daddy doesn't care enough to, he has billions of dollars. So it's like, I don't care. If Tony wants to do this, like
Did
Like,
you hear about Ricochet? Not to change the subject, but
oh,
something about Ricochet.
Yeah, he told WWE, he gave notice. He gave his notice, so he's leaving.
Oh,
So he's putting over Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker basically put him through a car window shield or car a windshield, and he's basically went to the hospital. I'm guessing that's his last angle. He's done. But yeah, he's
is he
apparently
going to
going to.
AEW? Please say
I'm
no.
guessing so. I'm guessing
Ugh.
so, because at this point, like, he kind of fits AEW better because with his style, but at the same time, it's like I wouldn't be. Him and Osprey had a match in 2017 where these marks love that match. I mean, they absolutely adore that match. They constantly share it. It's like I watched it. It was like literally Cirque du Soleil. All it did was flips and
Right. But
flops
Ricochet, what you have to understand is that you're going to lose your body to AEW. They don't care if you go through 5 million tables. They don't care if they break glass over you.
Yeah.
They don't care if you go into a plate glass window. You will lose your body because of this. So think before you do.
Yeah, he gave his notice, so I'm not sure if he's going straight to AEW or he's going to work Japan or he's going to work TNA, going to kind of float around. I don't know what his intentions are, but if he wants to take Tony Khan's money, because Tony Khan can't wait to give it out, so I understand, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, like you said, the body part, eventually, like Kenny Omega's already breaking down. He's barely in his early 40s, so he had diverticulitis, so that's why he's out. But yeah, his body's already breaking down.
No offense to Kenny Omega, but I don't like that dude.
He's breaking down. AEW's injury list is longer than I've ever seen. I mean, I think I saw a Jim Cornette video where they went through every injury, and it's like,
and it took about 15, 20 minutes just to get through that list.
Yeah, it took 15, 20 minutes of them like, oh wow, I forgot about it. That wrestler and that guy.
Yeah, I forgot that wrestler was even on the roster because they haven't been on the freaking TV show.
They've been hurt for years, or not years. I think Britt Baker's been out for a year and a half with back and neck issues, and I'm like, she was a top girl at one point. I mean, she was like all over that TV.
Better than what they got. Oh. Yeah, it's better than what they got. You guys have to understand, AEW is a thing onto itself, and it's getting to the point where it's just getting ridiculous. And yeah, they had the lowest ratings ever. They're not doing good storytelling. Guys are getting hurt for no reason. Look at Darby Allin. Darby Allin literally went through a plate glass window, finished the match with his back all bloodied and everything. And I mean, you're back.
Yeah.
I was just talking about Darby Allin because I mean, this is like rule 101. This is what's going to happen to you, Ricochet. Look at Darby Allin. He went through a plate glass window, finished the match with his back all messed up. He got hit by a bus in the face because he's a moron, and then he comes back and he breaks his foot, or he broke his foot.
I'm like, okay, Darby. I mean, you got taught as a kid, like, look both ways. How did he get hit by a bus in New York? I just don't understand. And then he got brought back to that match because Eddie Kingston broke his leg and tore up his knee in a match in Canada for a week for the pay-per-view for no reason, or 2 weeks for the pay-per-view. I'm like,
is his foot even healed?
Darby,
does anyone
know? Probably not. I mean, he's working hurt.
So
like Tony's like, hey, Darby, buddy, can you come back to the pay-per-view match for us? And the idiot is like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, dude, stay home. He's paying you. Like, no, Tony, I'm hurt. I'm a broken foot. I got run over by a bus. Like, why are you even calling me?
In the face.
Why are you calling me? I can't work, obviously. But the idiot's like, no, I'm there.
I'm there.
I'm there, and I'm taking.
Body again. I'll never be able to sit up or stand, or I'll be a quadriplegic or something. I mean, that's the way it's going. If you graph the way it's going, that's the way it's going for Darby Allin.
He'll be crippled by the time he's 40.
Exactly, and he's younger than us, I think.
Earl, as a hockey fan, pro wrestlers more like ballet dancers. You guys need a troll. You can do it.
Yeah, if you want. Oh well, it's bad cookies in. Chat's not working on my side.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's fine here. I mean,
Yeah, it's not working. It said, "Oops, something went wrong," and I never saw anything.
I don't even like wrestling, y'all got me talk about it. That's great, I mean, we, that's, we try
That's
to,
why we're here. We're old time wrestling people. Like we grew up in the 80s and the 90s with those kind of wrestlers. And I mean the new stuff today, like I said, I don't watch it. I do there was a question on X. They said, "Who would you watch right now?" And that for me is only two of them. Is Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, because I respected Cody Rhodes' old man, Dusty. I love Dusty Rhodes, and I love those
yeah.
vignettes that they did to bring him in when they brought him in '89. I love those. That was so awesome because I like
The
Dusty.
yeah, the polka dot gimmick. Like I've always heard conflicting stories. Either Dusty loved it and made it work, or he hated it but he made it work. I don't know what's the truth on that.
Dusty, I saw an interview they did with Dusty, and they asked him about that, and he said, "Look, it's just a gimmick, and I made it work because I can do anything, and I wanted to
And
show
he
Vince
can
I
do
could do
anything.
anything, and he could do everything."
No,
Um,
that
he
Sean, that's
never
his
hated
son.
it. Dustin, yeah.
Yeah, that's Goldust was Dustin, his son,
Yeah,
his older son.
Goldust was Dustin Rhodes, or who would eventually become Goldust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Goldust first came in. His first thing was with Scott Hall,
Yes,
and
it was
you
with
have to
Scott.
understand the whole Goldust thing was to push that gay button, because in the
Yeah.
90s they still hated gay people, so it was to
Mm-hmm.
push that gay button. And I remember because I have pictures of Curt was also in this. Curt is the one who gave the flowers to Scott Hall. So during that storyline, they had Curt go out as the commentator, and he's like, "Here, this is from Goldust, and it was some flowers and a teddy bear."
Scott
And
Hall was
Scott
the
Hall like,
machismo.
like
He was
that,
the classic Hispanic male, a
right?
machismo, Razor Ramon,
He was like the
and
man's man. Yep.
yeah, and and it was perfect that feud because Goldust came in as Vince said, androgynous. That's how he kept telling Dusty,
Why
he
did you
never
say
said the word
gay? And
gay.
Dustin's like, "Why did you just say gay, Vince? Just say gay.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
okay. Just
andro.
say gay."
He said andro. Like, look, this is your gimmick. You're gonna be Goldust. He's androgynous. He's androgynous. Like, and Dusty, like, okay, okay,
Like
okay.
Adrian Street was androgynous. You never
Andro-
really knew with Adrian
yeah.
Street.
Like, and Dusty had no. I mean, Dustin had no clue what that word meant. He's like, oh yeah, because he wanted to come in, so he didn't care what it was. So like, he looked it up, and he's like, oh, it means gay because he
Yeah, it
had
means
to.
gay.
Like, oh,
Because
okay.
Vince had his first gay encounter, so to speak.
I
And
think it
that's
was
why Goldust was born.
Kevin Nash told the story about that where Vince like, oh, I was hitchhiking in like 1950 something, and this guy,
Jim Cornette tells this story too.
yeah,
Go
he
ahead.
touched me, and and that was my first like gay encounter, and I'm like, okay, so what are you're I don't understand, you're
So
bisexual?
you're bisexual, so you told the guy it was okay to stick his dick in your ass?
Yeah, and it only thing Vince said he got touched. He didn't, he didn't say that
He
he
didn't
had gay
elaborate.
sex, but
But you could
yeah,
kind of put your two and two together, I
yeah.
guess, and say, okay, so we had gay sex.
Yeah, so and Kevin Nash was like, as opposed to your last one, in reference to Sean, because they always pokes fun at Sean for that.
Well, because in '93, if you watch some of those Raws, they're screaming, "Sean is gay! Sean is gay!" That was the audience. That was not anybody but that audience.
And that was in the Manhattan Center in New York
Right.
City,
When
and
they
they
would
were
do Raw.
savage. That's
Right.
the hour-long Raw in those days.
Yes.
It's an hour. And
That
Sean
was
is
when
gay.
Raw first came on.
This is 93-ish and 93,
93. Yep.
and it was, this is the 90s. The country was still anti-gay, so when I
Yep.
say this stuff, I don't want people to think I'm anti-gay because I'm not. I'm going to make
No,
that clear.
I
But
have many gay friends. Trust
yeah,
me, I do.
so back then though, it was like, yeah, I gay people there, so yeah, so I didn't. Goldust was the heel and Scott was the baby face because people hated gay people still.
I
Like,
didn't mind gay people because I had friends even back
uh-huh,
then that were interested in the,
uh-huh,
same sex and stuff.
yeah.
So I just kind of like, whatever, brushed it off. I mean, I had a childhood friend who was retarded, mentally retarded,
Yeah.
and she was a normal person to me. So I grew up with it is what it is.
Yeah.
As long as you don't tell me what I have to do, I won't tell you what to do.
But yeah, the reason why I didn't like gays because of my culture. I'm Puerto Rican, and we were much more traditional. So it was like,
Yeah.
ugh, they stay away from me, and one of those things. So Goldust came in as the heel, and Scott was like babyface, and Scott was like, "Oh yeah, just do this to me when you got me in the reverse chin lock, and just do this." And I was like, "Ooh, dude," so Scott came up with a lot of that stuff that they did, and it was like, and that I'm not sure whether it was his idea for Dustin to kiss him in the lips, but or it was somebody else's, but
It was probably someone else's.
I don't.
I've seen Scott Hall's some of Scott Hall's interview, and he when he talks about Goldust, he's like, "Oh yeah, it was Vince's idea, but I kind of helped it along, but it was not to think that I was gay or that Dustin was gay because neither of them was gay.
Yeah.
We were trying to push that envelope and trying to tell a good story. But yeah, I think that was all Vince there.
Oh yeah, it was Vince. It was all Vince. I mean, he went to Dustin with it because Dustin had a falling out with his dad, so he left WCW.
Yep.
So
Yeah, they said
he,
that during the Dusty bio that
yeah,
they would ask him, "Hey, how's your dad?" He's like, "I don't know. I don't talk to him no more."
yeah. Around that time, he had a falling out with his dad.
Because of a
So
girl, because of Terry.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think Dusty didn't like Terry or something. So they
No.
kind of had a
Because there was rumors, and Terry will say this to a camera, but honestly, like the guys were saying to Dustin, hey, I had sex with your girl last night, or I had sex with your girl before she was yours. And Dustin would go to her and say, Terry, these guys are telling me that you're doing them. And she's like, who are you going to believe, them or me? Well, why would these guys have these stories in the first place? Are all these guys jealous of Dustin? Really?
yeah. It was. Look, one guy maybe, but if you have multiple guys coming
It
to
was
you
multiple
saying,
guys.
"Look,
It was
well,
definitely multiple guys.
uh,
It was kind of
so."
like and not to cut you off, I just want to
Mm-hmm.
finish this one point. I saw on this titlematch.com, if you want to look it up, it's titlematch.com on YouTube. I just saw they did a Tammy Finch interview,
Uh-huh.
and she's like crying about Chris Bandito. Girl, you ruined that man. That man thought
That
you walked on
Candido
water, and you ruined him. She was
Candido loved
banging
that.
every guy she could find. Even when Chris
Yeah.
was in the shower, she was banging guys left and right. You ruined that man.
Yeah,
And then you have the
Chris.
audacity to act all sad because he passed.
No, Chris. Even to his death, he still like loved Tammy to death. I mean, it was when he passed. It was like
He thought that woman walked on water.
it was It was the way she treated him was horrible. Hell, she talked about how she nearly moved in with Shawn Michaels. That's how much in
Yeah.
love she was with Shawn Michaels. And
Yeah. She one of the shoot interviews she did, she said that Shawn had just built a house in San
yeah,
Antonio and asked her to move in. She said, I can't do that, or Chris will kill himself. Oops, sorry, will self-delete himself. And I'm like,
yeah,
why do you care? You're the one screwing around with Shawn Michaels.
yeah. Shawn, Shawn didn't care about. He didn't give a shit. He was like, oh, I'm Tammy or Sunny. She was on WWF was hot, so I'm gonna do her. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because she described the night that she was bending over looking out the curtain, because they did that from time to time, and he came up behind her and was, I'm not gonna
yeah,
say it, but she's like, I could feel him. I'm like, well, that's gross, first of all. Ew. I'd be like, Shawn, get your, what, out of my butt. Or
yeah,
away from my butt.
and people like, oh, did like people wonder if Vince knew about the affair? It's like he had to have known.
They had, he knew.
Yeah, because Brett, who was it? Either Brett or somebody said they used Vince's office a few times to get away from Chris.
Yeah, they also had empty dressing rooms and closets because they couldn't get enough. They were like in high school; they couldn't get enough.
Yeah, they were high school like lovers and stuff. So
just break it off. All she had to do was break it off. That's all she had to do.
And she didn't, and she basically she destroyed him, and then
completely destroyed him.
Jim Cornette talks about their early days in Smoky Mountain, and she's like, even in Smoky Mountain, she wasn't that, I don't know what word to
flamboyant.
Use, yeah, she wasn't that open, like banging guys, Smoky Mountain. They were actually in love and they were happy. When she got to the WWF, she started like experimenting with the pills and alcohol, and that's when she kind of changed. And she never recovered from that.
No,
never.
And she'll be in jail for what, 20 some years?
I think she got sentenced to 17 years in prison.
17. Yeah, for having for deleting a guy because she was drunk and she was driving without a license.
Yeah, she started experimenting with pills and alcohol, and Shawn Michaels was into that, and that's how I think they met the night they fought, like for the first time, was when Shawn Michaels got beat up by the Marine. And they took him back to the hotel, and Tammy was the one who, like cleaned them all up and stuff. He got beat up by the Marine.
Else would.
Yeah.
Because everyone else was like pretending to be his friend.
Yeah. He got beat up by the Marine. Shawn Michaels said it was 7 Marines. It was like, apparently Davey Boy was there.
It was
it was 1. He got beat up by 1. The 7 Marines thing was done to protect him because he's like one of the top guys, and they didn't want to bury him.
I agree with Curt Hennig. Shawn Michaels is a pussy.
Yeah, Jim Cornette said Shawn Michaels never won a real fight in his life. It was like he's 0 for life in a real fight. He got beat up by Bret Hart that one time when he pulled his hair.
Oh, and apparently, according to my friend Sean, he says not only did Rick Rude beat up Shawn Michaels, but also Curt Hennig beat up Shawn Michaels. Apparently, he was running at the mouth around Curt. Curt beat the shit out of him.
I know the Harris twins beat him up too, because there was their last night, and according to Jim Cornette, they just grabbed him by his throat, and like he was like out of his, and it's like, oh, I could kill you right now if I wanted it. I'm not sure if it was Don that had him or Ron had him, but one of them. I think
it was Ron.
And Don kind of was outside the door to make sure nobody got in.
Yeah.
And eventually they got him, off of him, but it was their last night, and it was like, fuck it, we're just gonna kill Shawn Michaels. And it was like, because he was a prick to us. We're gonna beat up Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. Well, and I was like, how did you find out about this? I was talking to my friend on X. He's like, oh, Curt talks about it. I'm like, Curt talks about it? Where? When? I'll have to find an interview where he talks about he beat up Shawn Michaels, but
I didn't know about. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I didn't know that. Apparently, like I said, Shawn Michaels was shooting at the mouth, and Curt told him to shut the fuck up, and he didn't listen. So Curt beat the shit out of him. But Rick Rude did too.
Yeah,
apparently he was running at the mouth on Rick Rude too.
I don't get what. Honestly, I don't get what Vince saw in him.
I would not fuck with Rick Rude, let alone Curt Hennig. I would not fuck with Rick Rude.
Rick Rude could fucking take you and turn you to a pretzel, and you couldn't do. Shawn Michaels couldn't do anything about it. And
wouldn't even break a sweat. I mean, he wouldn't even break a sweat.
And what's funny is Rick Rude would be part of DX like years later in '97.
Yeah, that is the funny part.
Yeah, he was the insurance policy, referencing his Lloyd's of London policy. He couldn't wrestle, but he could show up on the show, and be the insurance policy for Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
So
well, then eventually he would go to WCW because of the whole Montreal screw
job. Yeah,
and he
was
would
Brett's
be
friend.
Curt Hennig's manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all friends. They all hung around together. So Rick Rude was pissed.
Yeah. And a lot of the boys were pissed. And it was like Undertaker told Vince, you need to explain yourself to Brett.
Yeah,
You need to give him one.
He deserves a punch. So you need to take a punch from Brett.
You need to give him one. And he's like,
Yep.
for the locker room. It's like, Vince, like, because Undertaker was at that point like the locker room leader. Like Vince listened to him. Like whatever he said, Vince like, okay. So he went to Brett, explained, you need to explain yourself to Brett. And Brett's like, look, if you don't leave by the time I get out the shower, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
I'm gonna punch you. I'm gonna punch you right in your face.
Yeah.
He said Vince just stood there. So Brett finished up his shower.
He took his time.
Took
His shower.
Took
combed
his shower.
His hair.
And
got dressed.
He punched him, and that was that.
And he's like, he's getting up. So like, okay, I'm actually gonna punch Vince. Oh, I can't wait to. Like, he's wanted to do it for years. And who was there? Pat Patterson, Briscoe. I think Shane was there too. Apparently, Shane McMahon was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure who else was there, but somehow Brett was. They were trying to separate them, and Brett somehow got the punch in and got him right in his face. That's why he had that shiner the next night on Raw.
Right. Yeah, you could see that.
Yeah.
You could definitely see that shiner. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so pronounced. But then he was
Brett
like,
got him.
Right.
And
wow.
And Vince fell, and then they separated, got out. Vince walked out, and it was in the Wrestling with Shadows documentary. I mean, this happened. Mm-hmm. Vince walks out. He's haggard. He's kind of like he's drunk. He's obviously got punched in the head. So they all walk out, and Shawn Michaels was there with Undertaker. The Undertaker was like, "Shut the fuck up and don't say dick." He was sitting there like babysitting Shawn.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Dustin's new wife?
No.
She's wow, she's Hispanic.
Oh.
I mean, she's beautiful in the face, but she's like as old as he is. And I mean, nice. She's really, really pretty.
Okay. I haven't seen his new wife, no, but
he said he has his happy birthday it says happy anniversary baby at Terrell Reynolds or Rhodes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he remarried.
Tyrell. I don't know who that is. It's his wife, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just poked over to X to see if there's anything else we forgot because I'm starting to get like really exhausted here. But and I saw something about Dustin was saying happy anniversary to his new wife, but she is very pretty in the face, and she looks Hispanic, but she's very, very pretty in the face.
Well, real quick, they added a new member to the Bloodline on SmackDown. It's Jacob Fatu finally debuted.
Right. So they're going with that now. That's what they're going with.
They added a new member to the Bloodline. So he beat up Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes by himself. So they really put him over strong in his debut.
Right, and he's Fatu. He's Haku's son, or
hold on, because I'm confused. There's so many goddamn Samoans that I don't know whose son he is, or
he has to be isn't there Jacob Fatu, and then there's a
Sam Fatu. Who's Sam Fatu? Oh, he's fuck. What I see him here. He's a Tonga kid's son.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I thought
someone else is Haku's son. I forgot who's Haku's son.
Tama Tonga and Tama Loa. They were raised by Haku.
Right.
They're his uncle, but uncle by relation, but he raised them basically.
Yeah.
And WWE signed some other, I forget his name, some young guy, who's also raised by Haku. It's like, how many goddamn Samoans or Tongans are there in wrestling?
I mean, there's a lot, and I'm glad that they all decided to go into wrestling. Hey, let's see what they can do. They're second generation.
Jacob is great, apparently. Everything I've heard, he's like fantastic. But again, this is the online internet, and they think Will Ospreay is fantastic. So, I haven't seen him wrestle, so we'll see how he looks in his first match. But I was impressed with what I saw on SmackDown. They put him over strong. I mean, he no-sold Kevin Owens' super kick. He super kicked him, and he's like, and just, killed him.
I just saw something about Jeff Jarrett was getting emotional about Owen Hart and Toby Keith. I did not know that Toby Keith had been on TNA. When it first
Yes, he
came on
was.
in
He was.
2002, he was on TNA Wrestling.
Yes, he was. He did something with. I think it was. He was in some sort of story with Jarrett, I think, or somebody.
Yeah,
And
with Jeff Jarrett.
yeah, it was with Jarrett. Yeah, his the only reason why his dad started TNA because Jarrett needed a job because Vince wouldn't rehire him after what he did with China.
Right, and the Owen Hart thing, he was tag teamed with Owen at the time, or
Yeah.
they had just split him up or something. But he was really close to Owen Hart as well.
Yeah, he was. Jarrett definitely was.
Right. Well,
Eh,
and you know what? I would have loved to have seen Toby Keith have a feud with Curt Hennig instead of Chad
mhm.
Brock. I mean, Chad Brock was still coming up and coming in country music.
Uh-huh.
He had one like hit, and then he just came out. At that time, he had just come out with "The Thunder Does the Work" or
Yeah.
"Lightning Does the Work." Excuse me. I like that song. "Lightning Does the Work." That's the only Chad Brock song I like. But I think they were trying to get new talent in there, and Chad Brock had been a wrestler. No one
Yeah.
knows this, or not a lot of
Mhm.
people know this. But Chad Brock, back in like '96, I think he was a jobber. He couldn't make it in wrestling, so he decided to
Yeah.
go in country music, and country music was good for him. But
It,
but the
he
only
would.
Chad Brock song I actually liked was "Lightning Does the Work." But if they
Mhm.
had Toby Keith in there and had a feud with Curt Hennig, Curt would have been like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great." But I mean, he
Yeah.
liked Chad Brock and he respected him and everything. But like to have like Toby Keith, who was a known country singer,
Yeah, he was
I
like
think like
top of the line.
I think Curt would have been like giddy like a schoolgirl, like, "Oh my god,
Uh,
it's Toby Keith," you know.
yeah, he. But later on, what's his face? Toby
Uh,
Keith tried to buy TNA, but it didn't
right,
work
and I
out.
did not know that Toby Keith was a wrestling fan. I did not
Yeah, he
know that
was. Yeah,
whatsoever.
or he was. I mean, he passed
He
recently, but
was, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
But
love Toby Keith. I liked
mhm,
early Toby Keith when he first
mhm,
came in
yeah.
because he had that mullet.
Uh-huh.
But his music was good. Like I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. Blue Moon,
Mhm.
and then I like some of it was newer when it first came out. I my favorite song that I will love to this day is "Beer for My Horses," where he does that song with Willie Nelson.
Uh-huh. I actually know that one. Yeah.
I love Beer for My Horses. I will sing it to this day, loud and as loud as I can because I love that song. I love Willie Nelson and I love Toby Keith. There's some songs that I didn't like, but it was mostly like most of the '90s stuff that he did, like Dream Walkin', um, When Love Fades. I really like that song. There's a song called Me Too that I really
Yeah.
like from him. So I love Toby Keith's music when he first came in, and then some of it when he was kind of like the redneck Toby Keith.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, yeah. I mean,
Who's Your
and
Daddy is a good one. Who's Your
uh-huh.
Daddy?
Yeah, I mean, So yeah, Jacob Fatu debut. He beat up everybody, and we'll see what happens with the. But I just don't like Solo Sikoa as the leader of this bloodline. He's like, he's
But
so he's so mediocre in that
there are
role.
rumblings about Roman Reigns coming back. Did you see this on X?
Yeah, yeah,
There are some
he's
rumblings that he might be coming back too.
because they name dropped him on SmackDown. Solo was
Of
like
course,
Roman Reigns
that's why
isn't
I saw it.
Roman Reigns isn't coming back, Paul. So I'm the head of the table now. So nothing you can do about that. He's like,
Right.
so yeah, so he's definitely on his way back. I'm
I mean, there
assuming
are rumblings about it. You know,
I'm
people are
assuming
talking
it's
in the.
because real quick before we wrap up, the main event, the scheduled main event for SummerSlam is Cody versus Solo Sikoa for the title. Like because
Who
everybody's
is So
setting it up.
Sikoa?
The leader of the bloodline, Solo, the one with
Oh,
blonde hair.
Solo. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Jay Uso. I'm sorry.
No.
Wrong guy.
Solo.
Wrong guy. Wrong guy.
So that's their planned main event. I'm like, oh, that's so like I'm not really looking forward to that match.
Well,
And
let's give Cody the benefit of the doubt though before we say anything because
no,
I mean
yeah,
he
yeah,
is getting better, and that's kind of why they made him champ in the first place.
yeah. I'm not. My problem isn't with Cody. The problem is with Solo. It's
Oh,
like he hasn't gotten. They haven't given him many wins. They haven't really like promoted him as like the leader. It's more like
right.
he's
And
the
they're
leader
giving this
now.
on a pay-per-view when they should be giving it away on free TV.
Yeah, because Solo shouldn't be main eventing a goddamn pay-per-view, especially SummerSlam. But I'm assuming this is where Roman kind of makes his return in this match.
To show who the real tribal chief is.
Yeah, he makes his return in this match at some point towards the end. He'll come in and, I don't know what they're going to do. I assume Cody's going to go over because they already set up the match with The Rock. Like The Rock said, when I come back, I'm going to get a title shot. So he's not dropping it until The Rock returns, whenever that is.
Conceded much?
Yeah, but The Rock's going to get his title shot.
Yeah, I know, but I would rather see The Rock versus Roman Reigns, and then it's like, revenge. Oh, you dropped the ball, whatever.
Yeah. But
I take it where you will,
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with Rock and Roman. Rock's not getting any younger, so if they're gonna do Rock and Cody first,
that's why I'm like, why would they do Rock and Cody when The Rock is just? I mean, do Roman first.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not getting. I don't understand the Rock and Cody thing. I mean, I get it. That's probably gonna main event WrestleMania next year. Probably won't see The Rock until WrestleMania again. And I don't know what they're going to... I assume Roman's going to focus on the Bloodline Civil War, which is what they're going to set up.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably... we talked about this. Roman's probably going to get together the original Bloodline, which is Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was part of that, too. So it'll be probably more games, because they do that in November with Survivor Series, so...
I like Sami Zayn because he got a lot of the wrestlers to... This is the only reason why I like Sami Zayn. He got a lot of those bloodline wrestlers, especially Roman Reigns, to break character. Because you can see Roman Reigns trying to hide his face because he's laughing so hard.
Yeah, he accidentally got over in that bloodline storyline. He wasn't supposed to. He's more like...
It's okay. Jay's just feeling a little oosy. I'm like, what? And you can see Roman Reigns and Jay Uso just doing
Jay, Jimmy, Roman, Paul Lee even was like, Paul Lee was trying to do this.
Yeah, they're like this. And you can say, I'm going to throw you over the top rope. Paul Heyman goes, I'm not in the Royal Rumble. What are you talking about? Brock's he lost it.
Yeah, that was our truth. You're talking about. Yeah. But the key to comedy is keeping a straight face when you say something.
It's kind of hard to do when you got like someone like Sami Zayn, who's just off the wall anyway.
Sami kept a straight face when he said he's not feeling very oozy.
Yeah, he's kind of oozy.
And
Roman Reigns kind of like.
And that's the key to comedy, keeping a straight face when you say something like that. If you start kind of laughing, then it's like it doesn't really work. But he kept a straight face and made them all crack, the entire bloodline. And Roman's like, okay, because they were setting up the story with Jay betraying leaving the bloodline eventually.
Well, see, the reason why they don't bring up the Curt breaking character, and Curt Hennig did break character one time, but it wasn't like he was laughing. He wasn't laughing. What happened was it was after SummerSlam 1990 when he lost the belt to Kerry, and he was battling Kerry, and something happened where Kerry's nose started to drip.
Yeah.
And Curt got some on his arm, and he looked down like, "Oh no! Well, that's not mine because I know I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
And he has Kerry like this and like stretching him, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Are you okay?" And Kerry goes, "Yeah." And then you hear Kerry say something, but it's very muffled because the camera literally is right there. So Kerry makes Curt break character for like 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Okay? It's awesome. Like, are you okay? Because he knew it wasn't his. Yeah. Curt knew it wasn't his, but he saw red stuff here. Yeah. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And Kerry goes, "Yeah." And then he says something, and then they go right back into it, where Kerry smacks Curt in the stomach.
When you said Kerry, I'm like, who?
Kerry Von Erich.
Von Erich. I remember in my head, I was saying Kerry. It's like,
something
Kerry Von Erich.
happened to his nose where it started getting this red liquid coming out of it. And Curt thought that he caught him with his arm or something because it was all over Kurt's arm. And Curt looks down. He's like, oh no, that's not mine. So he has Kerry like this. And for 2 seconds, you can go, are you okay?
Yeah, Kerry Von Erich was known as the Texas Tornado in WWF. They didn't really use his name, even though everybody knew who it was. But
yeah.
So yeah, I think we should be wrapping up now. I know you're exhausted, and we kept going a little bit, but we're almost at 2 hours anyway. So
Almost. And like I said, I really enjoyed this. It's just I've been working like at my other job,
yeah,
and of course they won't give me amoxicillin, so I could be like ready in a couple of days. No, they have to give
yeah.
me some viral crap that doesn't work.
We probably
So
wouldn't done the show last week anyways, because you told me on X that you were really sick anyway. So
well, yeah, I mean, I was coughing then, and I was taking Mucinex, and I kind of knew what it was. I knew it was probably a sinus infection, but
yeah,
again, because amoxicillin doesn't make any money for the big pharma industry, they won't
mm-hmm.
give it to you anymore. They give you some viral stuff that doesn't work, and it takes longer to get through your system.
It's stupid. Well, yeah, I mean that'll do it for this episode. I mean, we'll be back next week. We'll probably preview Forbidden Door, even though it's nothing but cold matches for no reason. But yeah, we'll talk about that and others, whatever happens in WWE or anything that breaks in wrestling. So yeah, make sure you watch next week 8 o'clock. I have Angel in the afternoon every Fridays at 7. I have nothing scheduled for tomorrow, so it's sometimes I have stuff on Sunday, but not for tomorrow. And yeah, make sure you check out Steph's stuff too. Her link's in the description. And unless you want to
Yeah,
go
this
ahead with
week
that.
on Black Magic Talk, we have another guest, but their name escapes me at the moment. Sorry, I'll
Mm,
have to ask Matt Collins about that.
mm-hmm.
But check that out. I'm gonna try to get that on Tuesday afternoon uploaded to. But we have another. He's another author, I think,
Yeah.
and we're definitely gonna have. We're booked up with guests until like August.
Oh wow,
So,
that's
I
cool.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot of his author friends who are coming
Uh-huh.
on and they're going to explain who they are. I'm
Yeah.
going to let him do most of the talking because I still can't talk.
Yeah.
The last one we did with Chris Travers, he did most of the talking. I didn't really want to talk because I was just, that was, I just gone to the doctor and they told me,
Yeah.
oh, it's going to take a while. So, yeah, check that out. Description field will be there. As
Yeah.
soon as Angel
I
gives
put
me
it
the
down there.
episode, I can put all those links in there as well.
Yeah.
I have episode 39 coming. Curt Hennig is the best. Changed my mind. We're gonna do Dr. D's match, 1982. Curt Hennig versus Dr. D.
Um.
It was a great match. It was a 2 out of 3 falls, and Curt ends
That
up winning because Dr. D he cheats. But it's
was
a
it.
really great match.
I assume it was in Portland. It's 82.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
in Portland Wrestling. It was
Yeah.
1982. It was right after the Buddy Rose and Curt Hennig match where it was knee versus knee, where
Uh
they were
huh.
trying to injure each other's knees. And Dr. D interferes and kind of beats up Buddy Rose, but he also beats up Curt Hennig. So Curt
Um.
came back next week and said, "Well, I'll face Dr. D," and in a match, and he does. So it's 2 out of 3 falls, Dr. D and Curt Hennig.
Okay. That's interesting. I'll check that out, and you check that out too. There. So we'll see you guys next week, and thank you everybody for watching and chatting. I mean, the chat's been going random stuff, but I appreciate that. The the interaction, and please subscribe to our channels down there. And thank you, Sean. I appreciate you hanging out, even though you're not a wrestling fan. But and we'll see you guys next week, and hopefully Steph will be better. Have a nice weekend.
I hope
And we'll
so.
see you guys next week. Peace.